Hello everyone, Scott here again, and welcome back to the Guilty Pleasure Cinema, celebrating the movies you're embarrassed to love. This is the 2005, not extended, version of Fox's Fantastic Four. A scientist, his girl, her brother, and his pilot best friend go into space, because that's what you do, and encounter cosmic rays. It gives them powers. Reed Richards becomes Mr. Fantastic. He stretches himself too thin and therefore literally is stretchy. He's right there. Sue is a teenage girl and can turn invisible because that's what teenage girls do, that no one sees them. Johnny's a hothead, so, you know, fire, 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 fire. And Ben was near rocks and became the Thing. It's a protective shell for the hard guy with his soft inner. They go to space to get these powers. It's a bit of a curse because Reed wants to fix them but can't quite figure it out. And of course there's Dr. Doom. That guy. Dr. Doom is Victor Von Doom, Reed's rival, and naturally he hates Victor. Well, let's clarify that. That's what it comes to, but he even still loves Victor. It's a tragic story. Dr. Doom is Victor Von Doom, Reed's rival, who, no matter how hard he works, is never as good as Reed's natural ability. Also, he wants Sue, but Reed has Sue, and of course, that's all you really need to know with good guy, bad guy conflict, right? Now, the FF are the first family of Marvel, basically. The Marvel Universe with Spider-Man, Captain America, the Hulk, all those characters, it started here. And yes, that's 1961, and if you want to get technical, there was Timely Comics before that, and that's where Captain America came from, and Namor and the original Human Torch. But the Marvel age, Marvel Comics was Fantastic Four #1 in 1961. They're the first family of Marvel. And they've been a mainstay, really, up until very recently. And that's as of Secret Wars that just came out. That has kind of made things where the Fantastic Four aren't a thing. And there's a whole thing between Marvel Studios and Fox about using the characters. And yet they're promoting the X-Men stuff. And Deadpool's a thing. And it is what it is. But for the longest time, heck, they published Fantastic Four comics simply because they never hadn't. That's not a reason. And yet it still did well enough to exist. And is still beloved. And people were always saying, don't screw this up. It's the Four. Don't ruin this. Now, their first movie attempt was a $1 million Roger Corman affair back in the 90s. And heck, the print run of these two alone probably cost more than $1 million just to make the discs and cases. But it was a thing that they wanted to do because superheroes in movies should have been a thing a lot sooner than it was. But the technology never quite was there. In the 90s, Roger Corman, $1 million. You can guess how that went. Now, there's the whole debate over whether it was even meant to be released or if it was just actually using it to do the rights. But really, if you're using it to keep the rights, why wouldn't you make it good in the first place? But that's a whole other story. There's a documentary called Doomed that I want to see about all of that. What it is, though, is 4 super characters fighting a 5th. And what that means is you need a lot more than $1 million to pull it off. And Fox was all in. Fox went for it. They went after it because simply they had team success with X-Men. They saw no reason not to actually go for it. Casting was on point for this half and that quarter. I'm not against Jessica Alba as Sue Storm because she's Latina and not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl that we always knew Sue Storm to be. And yet, she's not Sue Storm. She's supposed to be a bit unassuming, but naturally beautiful. A lot of people always saw David Duchovny and Téa Leoni as Reed and Sue. And that's the kind of one you'd want. Like, not a drop-dead, gorgeous stunner, and yet she kind of is. And yet, in her own way, Alba is. And yet you want someone who's unassuming and just naturally that. And yet that looks like a model. It is. That doesn't work. That's a bit better, that picture there, but it just didn't quite work. And let's go down the path of Jessica Alba's acting ability. it's suspect, and yet I don't hate her stuff. It just didn't work here. And okay, he's Victor, but he's bad. Like, horribly bad. Really, the biggest thing they missed out on was the release date. This came out in 2005 and had been in production since the early 2000s at least. How did they not pull this off and release it on 4/4/04? And Doom. They missed the boat on Doom. Considering that there's been 3 Fantastic Four movies that weren't made by Roger Corman, and his $1 million effort got Doom right more than any of those. I mean, the look there is pretty good. That's probably the best looking Doom, I gotta say. The Corman one looks exactly like the comic. And, like, foam rubbery. But I talked about what he is. He's Doom. He hates Richards. Curse you, Richards! He hates him. Because he's so much better than him no matter what he does. And he has his girl, and he got a little scar. And he goes off the handle and is disfigured. And oh no, he hides himself behind the mask. And that's all good. That's simple stuff. This character literally helped inspire Darth Vader, the second best villain after Hans Gruber. How do you screw that up? It should be a simple thing. Johnny and Ben, though, are easily the highlights. I mean, Chris Evans, this opened the door for bigger and better things from here on out, by far. But he nails it. He's the hothead Johnny. He's having fun. He's a bit of a prick, but he's also likable, and it's all great. Chickless is dreamcasting. Say what you will about the suit for the Thing, but he nails it. He is Ben Grimm, and that is the Thing, even though it's a bit unassuming compared to the rest of the stuff, and he's kind of a smaller guy, so the Thing wasn't really big. He's got to be a bit Hulk-like, not like up, but out, and they didn't quite pull that off, so left a bit to be desired there, but really, they're great. And Ian Griffith, which I can never say his name right, it looks like it's Ion Grufford, but it's Welsh. Ian Griffith as Reed Richards was great. I thought it was really good. He sold everything properly. He was a bit mischievous, which worked too. Like, it gave more character to Reed, I thought, but it's called Fantastic Four. There's 5 main players, and yet it wasn't that fantastic, and we only really had a good 3 out of 5. That's the closest to a rating I'll ever give. Now, it was successful enough to get a sequel with more FF lore, like the Surfer, obviously, and Galactus, but this one should have gotten a 3rd, really, but they really kept trying to change things and didn't quite pull stuff off the way they should have. Fox was never happy with it and essentially shelved the franchise for 10 years. Then they Cormaned it, and things got worse. Overall, though, it's a bland 2000s origin story, which most of them kind of were. The sequels helped find their footing, but this one never got out of the gate, even after 2 tries, and there's some good spots in here, but it's a hard one. It's a guilty pleasure, and yet there's not much pleasure involved. It never got the things it should have gotten right, easily right, and got a lot of things wrong. It's very hard to make a good Fantastic Four movie, but it's very easy to screw it up. Should have been bigger and better things from here. But some players involved, well, they got those bigger and better things. You shouldn't feel guilty about it if it's a movie you love.